And it starts with a simple question of who's in charge. You've got a dude in a gyrocopter 100 feet in the air crossing 30-plus miles of restricted airspace. Whose job is it to detect him, and whose job is it to take him down?
Sir, as the commander of NORAD, that's my responsibility, and I'm accountable for that.
Why didn't it happen?
Because we're working against physics, sir. Our system is designed to detect, track, identify. We have a decision-making process to decide what to do, and then we engage. And that system is netted sensors, radars, cameras, and other capabilities that are out there. And we employ that system to the best of our ability, mitigate the risk as the best of our ability, but it's only capable down to a particular set of characteristics that the platform that we want to track and defend against is emitting, based on speed and based on size. And I can go into further details in the classified section.
Your spokesperson for Michael Kucharik, in an article dated April 16th in the Baltimore Sun, you had launched some balloons at the Aberdeen, the Aberdeen Proving Ground. It's called the Joint Land Attack Cruise Missile Defense Elevated Netted Sensor System, otherwise known as JLENS, was designed to help officials, quote, spot low-flying, slow-moving targets. Was it working? Was it operational?
It's not operational, sir. We put it up in Aberdeen to test it. It's in testing today. It's not netted into our system. And in the investigation, we're going to find out, while it's in its test mode, was it able to detect that particular traffic?
It wasn't operational on that day. You weren't testing at that time.
It's not operational. It's in a test process right now. We're using it as a test platform, and it is not integrated into our system. Should it prove to be effective, our choice is to put it into our system and make it operational, but it's not operational today.
U.S. Customs and Border Patrol uses the Tethered Aerostat Radar System, or TARS. Why aren't you using that?
That's why we think JLENS has more promise, and the reason we think JLENS has more promise than that is I'll have to defer to the next session, sir.
Who, once you detect something, whose job and role and responsibility is to take it down?
Secretary of Defense, Deputy Secretary of Defense, and if they're not there, it's my decision or to my deputies.
Whose decision is it if they see something visually at the Capitol Hill Police? Chief Dine?
Mr. Chairman, as officers do every day, if they see something that is a threat to them or anyone else.
When did they see it?
They saw it seconds before it landed as it was above the statue at Grand Circle.
And did they, what was the decision-making tree at that point?
They go through their training in terms of our threat and use of force training, and I believe they, in this instance, made the appropriate decision based on the manner in which it landed, the compliance of the pilot, and the distance from the building.
So we did have guns trained on it. They decided not to fire.
They made an instantaneous decision to do what they did and quickly arrest him, apprehend him.
As opposed to shooting it out.
Yes, sir.
You say in your written statement that the caller from the Tampa Bay Times, presumably here, advised the sergeant that Hughes's live feed could be seen on Hughes's website, which he provided. You later said, but it did not find the live feed noted by the individuals from the Tampa Bay Times. Why weren't you able to see it when so many others were? I mean, we had news organizations who were sending their reporters down there because they were watching it.
Yes, sir. Clearly, the media knew about this ahead of time. When we got those that call and that one email, we immediately began to investigate, and minutes later, he landed.
You told me last week, personally, that you would provide to me that email, yet we have not been provided that email. Will you provide this committee that email?
Absolutely, yes, sir. We
have also asked to meet with the individuals who, I'd like this committee, certainly myself, the ranking member, the House administration, Candace Miller and her ranking member, to meet with the people who had their guns up ready to fire. Will you make those people available to us?
Absolutely. We can work through the United States Attorney's Office. Obviously, as you know, this case is under prosecution.
Well, Chairman, just for a second. When will we get the email that the Chairman just asked you about? When will we get that? I thought we'd have that by now.
I can provide it to you immediately
That means right after this hearing?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Last question before I turn it over to the ranking member. You say in your written statement, Chief Dine, that due to the extremely short time frame between the lockdown order and the direction to lift the lockdown, no messages were sent to the congressional community advising the lockdown. The gyrocopter landed at 1:23 p.m. You say later in your testimony the gyrocopter was determined to be clear of any hazards at 2:57 p.m., and yet it was 5:03 p.m. before any notice went out. Why did it take so long?
We have, you're absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman. We have immediately fixed that. The next day, I gave a directive to our people to put out messages to the entire community that affect the community. What no one got was a lockdown message. We did send some messages out to the Senate community based on their direction, but that matter's been fixed. We had a overly complex notification system, and we've immediately fixed that, and that will not happen again.
And to the Sergeant of Arms, Mr. Irving, welcome back. I know you've had some duties there with the Prime Minister, but why didn't we get notification that there was a potential threat?
There was a mix-up in the command center, lack of communication between my staff and the Capitol Police command staff. That will not happen again, as the chief said. We have fixed that. So we vowed that.
I mean, there's the same people in the same. They're in the same room, correct?
It is correct. They're all in the same room, and the notification should have gone out. It was an error. In most cases, the notifications do go out. We had incident the prior weekend. They were flawless. In this case, they were not, and we assure you that it will not happen again.